For the first time since the Black Death, global humanity is on course to disappear. Not by war, not by plague, but by choice. A fertility rate of 1 means the next generation will be half the size of the last. A rate of 0.72, which is where South Korea sits, means each generation is barely 1/3 of the previous generation. Do that twice, and your population is just 10% of what it was 2 generations earlier. Stop and think about that. After 2 generations, only 10% are left. These numbers aren't statistics. They are catastrophe. For decades, we've been told the great danger was too many people. Overcrowding, mass starvation, resource wars, environmental degradation. Yet the truth is the opposite. Birth rates are falling around the world, and not by just a little bit. The question is no longer how can we feed the world, but rather will there be anyone left to feed? Is this inevitable? Watch to the end, because there is a solution, one that's been with us all along. In 1968, Paul Ehrlich wrote a book called The Population Bomb. He predicted an Earth enveloped in famine, too many mouths, not enough bread. He claimed that by the mid-1970s, hundreds of millions would starve. So governments responded in panic. China launched the cruel and ruthless one-child policy. Western children were indoctrinated to delay having kids and have fewer. But instead of an explosion, the population bomb imploded. According to United Nations data, fertility rates in the 1950s were at 5 children per woman worldwide. By today, that figure is barely above the 2.1 replacement level. Demographer Nicholas Eberstadt calls Europe and East Asia net mortality zones. That's chilling language. It means more coffins than cradles, more funerals than births. Germany's native-born fertility is stuck near 1.2. Italy at 1.18. Russia reports 17 million more deaths than births since the collapse of the Soviet Union. These numbers form a spiral. When birth rates dip beneath 1.5, history offers not a single case of natural recovery. Growth is capped by biological and physical limits. A woman can only have so many children. But decline? There is no limit to how fast a population can shrink. It can accelerate geometrically without friction. It's entropy, the second law of thermodynamics. It's easier to destroy life than to generate it. And that's why depopulation, once started, is an unstoppable avalanche, crushing everything in its path. And yet, across popular culture, the myth of overpopulation continues to circulate like a ghost. Students are shown old charts about exponential growth and told the Earth is overcrowded. Were you taught this? I bet you were. Look at the data. South Korea closes 100 schools every year. Japan loses 500,000 workers every year. Italy will lose 8 million workers by 2050. Do you think that has no consequences for you? What happens to individuals, economies, cultures, and entire nations when human reproduction stalls? On a macro level, the economic implications are staggering. Economies are like living organisms supplied by new births. When that supply ends, decline is not dramatic at first. It's like, so what? And yet it creeps along in pension deficits, school closures, and slowly emptying villages. Step by step, it suffocates growth, destroys innovation, collapses vitality, and then it crushes everybody. Think about what this means in human terms. When the boomer generation was born, for every 100 grandparents, there were about 120 baby boomers. Now look at South Korea, which is everyone's future. Experts project that by 2050, for every 100 Korean grandparents, there will be just 13 grandchildren. Let me repeat that. 100 retirees, 13 children. That kind of top-heaviness has never existed in human civilization. Think about it. 2 or less young workers expected to support not only themselves, but the medical care, housing, and daily expenses of each retiree. Governments never planned for this. Did you? Social Security in the United States is projected to exhaust its reserves around 2035, less than 10 years. Then what? Here's what. Either massive benefit cuts, crushing tax increases on the working population, or you just have to work until you die, assuming AI will even let you have a job. That's the options. Some people say, yeah, but AI and automation will step in and fix it. Well, on this channel, we're finishing up an 8-part review on the AI revolution and what that means for society. Check that out on the playlist on my channel. The review revealed nothing comforting. You see, technology does not pay taxes. It doesn't buy starter homes. It doesn't make gifts to charity or volunteer at the food bank. Automation can't rebuild eroded communities. An economy is more than just output. It's families, it's towns, it's communities, and you need people for that. Other people think, well, immigration will fix it. But that's not how it's turned out. First, skills rarely align. Second, cultural friction grows when immigration scales up to levels needed to stabilize populations. And third, the very source pools for immigration are declining as well. Depopulation is not just a Western problem, it's global. We're already seeing the social unraveling. Villages in Italy auction houses for €1 because there are no families left to occupy them. But do you want to live in an abandoned village with no services? Abandoned homes dot rural Japan, while Tokyo convenience stores employ 80-year-olds because their pensions can't sustain them and they have no kids to fill the gaps. Do you want to be that 80-year-old because the government pension you were promised turned out to be an unpayable IOU? We end up with huge intergenerational strain. Why should a shrinking pool of younger workers pay the bills of the older generation that created this mess? That tension will climax in the next 15 years, when the absent children of today would have entered the workforce, but don't. So what do governments do? Some ignore it. Some are too incompetent to recognize it. A few roll out incentives. Hungary offers lifetime tax exemptions for mothers of 4. Singapore dangles generous cash bonuses. South Korea pays families direct allowances for each birth. Yet in every case, fertility barely budge. Economists call it the Swedish roller coaster. When bonuses appear, births jump, only to crash once families who were already planning to have another child anyway take the money early. On a personal level, everyone will be affected. Taxes rise, wages stagnate, stores close, businesses die. You might be forced to work longer, be more productive, travel further for healthcare. That's all rather inconvenient, but on a deeply personal level, it's horrifying. And here's why. For the majority of women who remain childless, it wasn't really an intentional choice. There are all sorts of reasons why childlessness could happen. Lack of a suitable mate, not enough money, school and career ambitions, medical issues, and on and on. Whatever the reason beyond an intentional conscious choice, the result is tragic, and the mainstream media avoids it. It's uncomfortable. This is the silent grief of millions of women and of men. And yet, for most of them, it is the predictable result of an intentional individual choice for whatever reason that seemed reasonable at the time to delay childbirth. You keep waiting for the right moment, which never comes, and then the biological door shuts way faster than almost anyone ever expects it to. Why are more and more people in prosperous nations, surrounded by security and opportunity as never before in human history, not having children? When I first started researching this, I thought maybe the problem was people deliberately deciding not to have children at all for whatever reason, but that's wrong. According to demographer Stephen J. Shaw, author of Birth Cap, there's a link below. I highly recommend you watching that. There's one factor common across all countries driving this trend toward population collapse. The answer he found is nothing short of stunning. The data shows that the individual decision to delay having a first child is what leads to mass unplanned childlessness. But why this decision to delay having that first child? Pointing to one's personal economic situation, as many do, is just a cop-out. I know that my saying that will upset many of you who are struggling to make ends meet even in 2-earner families. I get it. But are finances really the issue? You hear it all the time. I can't afford kids. I can't afford a house to put them in, so I have to put off having kids. That sounds reasonable. But honestly, do you think things are worse today than they were for our ancestors? Where you worked 7 days a week in some industrial revolution sweatshop without insurance, 0 workers' rights, and lived in squalor with 2 or more other families in a 1-room flat overrun with rats and fleas without plumbing. And still, they had kids. But if you really boil it down, this demographic crisis is built on a single false promise: that women can have it all. Women have increasingly said, let me get my higher education done, my career going, then somewhere along the line I'll have my kids and a family and it'll all be good. Instead of finding their own female-oriented rhythm, women opted to copy the male model of success, forgetting one key difference: only women can have children. What happens is that by the time the education and career blocks are checked, the biology checks out. By the time a woman is 35, it becomes difficult to have a child, let alone more than one. And by 45, even with IVF, it's game over. That's different for men. You can say it's unfair, but that's reality. So women get the education, they get the career, but then it's too late to get the children. Here's a startling fact mentioned by Shaw. If a woman does not have her first child by the age of 26, she only has a 50% chance of having any children at all. That delayed decision is the single biggest driver of population decline. For a smaller group of potential parents, there is another driver, and it's far more dark. It's the rise of what's called anti-natalism, an idea that not only doubts the value of parenthood, but in its more extreme form, condemns the very act of procreation as harmful. This view regards children as a curse, not a blessing. If you dig a little deeper, you find something truly frightening. A rejection of human value and purpose, and even the subordination of human welfare to nature. Together with nature as a supreme good, convenience and autonomy, as demographer Nicholas Eberstadt observed, become the most important things. Children who require sacrifice and disrupt convenience are to be avoided. It is not unusual to hear people today say with a straight face, "It's immoral to bring a child into this broken world." That phrase is the manifesto of a generation estranged from its own future. If you do a quick search, you can find huge online communities devoted to celebrating childlessness, where millions of members echo the same motto, mocking parents as foolish, environmentally insensitive, or worse. Advice threads celebrate sterilization. These nihilist subcultures present barrenness as liberation, converting fertility from biology to ideology. Look at South Korea, where the ideology has become systematized. If a generation reproduces at 1/3 its size, which is what they're doing right now, then 2 rounds later, their society stands at 10% of its original population. A nation of 50 million people reduced to 5 million in half a century. That's not speculation, that's disaster. Think through what that means. This ideology disguises itself in noble clothing. Hey, we've got to fight climate change, so have less kids. Others say the economic or the political situation makes parenting foolish or impossible. There's no question kids are expensive. They're inconvenient. They smell bad. They will reduce your standard of living and your me time. But notice the common thread. Children are framed as a burden, as something to celebrate only when the conditions are perfect, which they never have been in all of history. Whatever the cause, demographers warn about the irrecoverable gap. A missing cohort of children is not like a building delayed in construction, which can be finished later and, so what? Those uncreated children can never return as parents. Fertility rates under 1.5, which exists now across the Western world, have never sustainably rebounded in history. Once decline falls past that cliff, momentum ensures cultural doom. So we see the paradox unfold. Never has humanity been richer, healthier, or freer, and yet never has it so decisively turned against itself. Delayed parenthood and anti-natalism is not an eccentric corner of the internet. It's the philosophy guiding entire populations toward chosen extinction, and it's spreading. But let me ask you, if this logic leads to a future of emptiness and silence, what could possibly counter it? What worldview says yes to life when the culture says no? If you're still watching, you're about to find out why this matters more than you think. At the very opening of Scripture, God issued humanity's first mandate: be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. This was not an optional suggestion. It's a calling rooted in creation itself. Psalm 127, children are a heritage from the Lord, the fruit of the womb a reward. In the biblical vision, to bring forth children is not merely biology. Where the culture says the present is bad and the future not worth living, faith proclaims that life is good, intrinsically good, because every human being, every child, bears the image of God. Where egotism says I can have it all and puts education and career ahead of family and children, where nihilism says children are expensive, inconvenient burdens, Scripture says they are blessings. Let's wrap this up. Population collapse is not theory, it's math. Below replacement fertility means missing children who never return. But deeper still, it is a spiritual crisis. Deuteronomy 30, verse 19 says, I have set before you life and death, blessing and curse. Therefore, choose life, that you and your offspring may live. Choose life. And so here's some concrete ways to do it. If you agree this is a problem, push for more support for those who want kids. Change the message from kids are a burden to kids are a blessing. Widen your own social net. If it takes a village to raise a child, then move to that village or help build it. Change your own attitude about the value of children. Put them ahead of another college degree, a fancier car, or that looming promotion if it means putting off having a child. If this stirs something in you, act. Support families, encourage mothers and fathers who feel alone, lend a helping hand, and yes, have that first child. This channel exists because truth matters. So don't forget to like and subscribe for more exploration at the intersection of Scripture and our cultural moment. Share this message so others awaken to the urgent reality for the Enigmatic Truth Project. See you next time.